Hello and welcome to the Gospel and Grounds podcast. My name is Jeremy. I am a church planter and a pastor, and I'm here with my good friend Brandon Bauer, who is a pastor and a theologian. And this podcast is about drinking hot coffee and talking about hot topics that affect you and the church, the Bible, and theology today. Let's jump in. Hello, Brandon.
Hello, Jeremy.
It is time for another fun-filled episode of Gospel and Grounds about eschatology.
That's right. We're on, this is the episode 2. I'm not going to say week 2 because of the way we're kind of coming out with these.
Yep.
A little bit different, but episode 2. So last episode, we kind of started with the book of Revelation, started with this is probably how we should be looking through this and reading through it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope all of y'all had the chance to read the first 3 chapters of Revelation and really think about the historical context of it.
It's a real page turner.
Yep. And when you start to, the other thing I forgot to mention, but want to mention again, is go and watch the Revelation video from the Bible Project.
So not the Left Behind movie with Kirk Cameron.
No.
Sorry, I just laughed at my own joke.
The Bible Project has an overview video of Revelation, which is awesome, and I think will give you a good context of everything. And then remember reading through the eyes of the first century church.
Yeah, doesn't mention Nikolai Carpathia anywhere.
Goodness. All right, so this episode, not week, we're going to be talking about the 4 great interpretive frameworks that we've seen throughout church history for the book of Revelation.
Yeah, so this is mostly framed around the middle section of John's vision. This would be Revelations chapter 6 through 19.
Mm-hmm.
And while all Orthodox Christians agree God wins in the end, the global church historically divides into kind of 4 distinct lenses when interpreting how these chapters interact with human history. Why don't you give us the futurist model?
Yeah,
Brandon?
So let's start off with system number 1, the futurist model.
Now, this is what I grew up with. Is this what you grew up with?
I believe this is what I grew up with as well. I would say this is probably a pretty common thought process.
Probably 75%
of American churches.
evangelicals believe this, yeah.
All right, so this system assumes that the vast majority of the book of Revelation, specifically the seals, trumpets, woes, and bowls, all that chapters 6 through 19, that it represents literal, physical, chronological, historical events that have not happened yet. So it's going to happen. There are going to be real events that happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm making that clear. They remain entirely confined to that future global period of tribulation immediately preceding the physical return of Christ.
Yes.
So the kind of the what we would call this is dispensational premillennialism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think you could also fall into, with the futurist model, there's a couple other, we're not going to detail those on this episode. We'll detail those in a couple episodes, but there's premillennial, amillennial, postmillennial.
Mm-hmm. And all sorts of flavors in between.
All sorts of flavors in between. We'll get to those.
Yep.
But most people who fall into this category, or we would call them dispensational premillennialists.
Yeah, and this is, kind of the prominent view in 21st century America. It was popularized by the Schofield Study Bible in 1939.
Interesting.
It was John Darby wrote this was one of the first Bible that had like notes at the bottom. And so he helped create the notes for this. It was reinforced by the 1970s pop theology books. We mentioned last episode, the late great Planet Earth, stuff like that. And completely cemented into modern evangelical culture through the Left Behind book series and movie phenomenon, which is funny because it's crazy. This is an aside. This is not the notes, but there was a massive movement of people coming back to church when Dante released the Divine Comedy because of its depiction of hell. And there was a massive movement of people coming back to church because of the Left Behind books and people being worried that they, wake up and go downstairs and my husband's clothes are on the floor. And
oh my goodness. Let me tell you about the amount of movies I've watched about the rapture and also being scared growing up. Thinking,
I was terrified growing up.
Anytime I would walk into a room and no one else is there, I was like, oh my gosh, it happened.
I've been left behind.
I'm
7. What am I going to do?
Like that was a real fear.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I joke about it now because if I don't joke about it, I'm going to cry about
yeah,
it.
I was like, oh my goodness. I thought, and then like by nature, what that means is that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't a good enough Christian, and so you can already see. Obviously, I think we're showing our cards a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have to try to place this in the text, right?
Yeah.
And so or place this in history and in the text. So this model places the composition of Revelation late in the first century, around AD 95, during the reign of Domitian, viewing the descriptions as a chronological timeline of an absolute end of the world.
Yeah, so really taking that word apocalypse to mean kind of end of the world.
Yeah, of Jesus saying, hey, this is how the world ends.
Yeah.
Right here.
Okay. That's the futurist model. We're not going to spend a whole lot more time on it because I think we might get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, let's not.
So system number 2 is the preterist model.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, what is that?
Yeah, so preterist is derived from the Latin root of for past, right?
Past,
so
okay.
This system argues that the bulk of Revelation's apocalyptic judgments were entirely and completely fulfilled in the first century, culminating in the cataclysmic Jewish war and the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in AD 70.
Okay, so just to be clear, that means that most of the stuff that's happening in the book of Revelation has already happened.
Yes, and the pushback might be, well, why didn't John just tell us plainly? Well, this is a book of prophecy, and it was written in a time where the Jewish reader would have understood a lot of this. But this framework frequently places the writing of the letter early, around 65, 66, during the bloody reign of Emperor Nero.
Okay.
And so John is not writing about a 21st century technology. He's giving immediate pastoral comfort to real, suffering first century churches trying to survive immediate Roman terror that is coming through the state. So,
yes. We do need to mention, though, that there is kind of like a sub category of the preterist model.
That would be the partial preterism.
Yeah. So, tell us about partial preterism and why partial preterism is important.
So this applies chapters 6 through 19 strictly to the fall of Jerusalem and the eventual collapse of the pagan pagan Rome, while firmly maintaining that chapters 20 through 22 look forward to a future literal resurrection and judgment. So a full preterism or a hyper-preterism views the entire book, including the resurrection and second coming, as entirely fulfilled metaphorically in AD 70. So this would be people who say Jesus is not coming back physically. Jesus, by liberating us of the temple, has given Christians now rule and reign of the earth in a less literal sense, if that makes sense.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is not like this was a heresy that was running around in the first century church.
This was rejected by the creeds as heterodox.
Yeah. This is something they were literally dealing with, saying that like, oh, Jesus is he's already come back.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, hang on. No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
Yes, I think it's important to make that distinction.
Yep.
Because to show our cards a little bit, I think both you and I would fall into this partial preterist camp.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we partially showed our cards because we haven't talked about fully everything yet. But you can see from our last episode when we talked about when you read the book of Revelation in its context, it almost forces you to see it in a kind of preterist way.
Yeah.
But we do want to be clear. We do not believe that the second coming of Jesus has happened.
No, we believe in a literal physical return of Jesus.
Yeah, literal physical return of Jesus and a literal physical resurrection of bodies.
Yes.
And then that's when the judgment will happen.
And a literal physical redemption of the heavens and earth.
Yep. We'll probably talk about this a little bit, but calling it the end of the world, it's like, is it the end?
Is it the end, or is it just like when your Xbox is being weird and you hold the middle button down?
The red ring of death.
Why don't you talk to us about the third model?
Yes, you're going to have to help me with this because we practice this word and I still struggle with it.
Historist
model. Goodness. Okay, so this system views Revelation 6 through 19 as a continuous, symbolic, chronological roadmap of the entire linear trajectory of Western church history unfolding from the first century straight through to the eventual return of Christ. So, how does this apply?
Yes.
And and interpretation. So instead of squeezing the events into the first century or putting all of the events into the far future, each seal, trumpet, and bowl corresponds to a distinct historical epoch.
Yep, which is epoch is a moment in time.
Yep. So a shift in a global empire or a major structural event in Western civilization. So the rise of Constantine and the Christianization of Rome, or the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Whoops. To barbarian tribes, or the rise of the papacy, and later the Protestant Reformation, or the rise of Islam, or the outbreak of the world wars in the early 20th century. So this was probably the most dominant framework held by the Reformers.
So Luther, Calvin, those guys.
They routinely interpreted the beast or the Antichrist as the historical papacy of their day.
This goes back to what we were talking about last episode of, every generation can read themselves into Revelation.
Yes. And my goodness, let me just say this. The amount of times I've heard of president is the Antichrist.
Yeah, I've heard it with our current president and with our last couple of presidents.
Yeah, and they've all had some weird way of making that.
Whether he's a Democrat or a Republican, someone's going to call him the Antichrist.
Someone's calling him the Antichrist. I think for many reasons, this doesn't feel... so I could see how this model could get confusing.
Yeah.
Because I think it could make sense.
Sure.
In the, if you were to apply the metaphor to different empires, but it can also get really squirrely.
Yes,
at many times, because I think what happens with this model, and it depends on how you apply it. And maybe we're going to get to that in the fourth model, actually, because I'm thinking about this, and then I'm thinking about.
Brandon got distracted because there was a thunderclap.
There was
outside,
a thunderclap outside.
He was worried that the Lord is judging us for this episode.
He's coming back.
Yeah, there's a seal breaking right now somewhere. A trumpet sounding. A bowl being poured out.
Okay, so I think where this can get confusing is because and we're about to talk about the fourth system, which is the idealist symbolic model.
Yeah.
But we've talked about how when we talked about the Nahash and how you can kind of carry that character.
Yeah.
It can kind of feel like, well, wait, wouldn't this make sense? But why wouldn't this? Why wouldn't this make sense?
Well, that's a great point. I think where the problem with this lies is that it's once again, it's just not wise to try and read yourself or your situation into the text.
I think this would be. First of all, I think I would call this narcigesis.
Yeah,
because one, any Christian could read this. First of all, there's so many events that could be a big event. Mm-hmm. Second of all, this kind of primarily could focus on Western or Eastern history.
Yep.
And again, we're in the West, we're in America, so this is kind of our context. We're kind of came out of the Western stream of the church. But what about the Eastern stream of the church?
Right.
I feel like what happens with this view is that it can really only focus on one group of people.
Yeah.
At one time, and
it's the thing of me and you have been reading the book God on Mute by Pete Greig.
Yes. Yep.
Which is a great book. Pete Greig, we love you. Please be a friend of the show. Not a sponsor, but can be if he wants. So it's the idea of, there's a farmer and he's praying for rain. And then down the road, there's a woman getting married and she's praying against the rain. Yeah. So it can't be both and. Right. But.
All right, so let's talk about the fourth system.
Yeah, and this is one that I find real appealing.
Okay.
That's the idealist symbolic model. I don't know if this is what I am, but this is something I find appealing. Yeah. So this system completely rejects any linear chronological tracking of calendar dates, whether locked in the first century past or projected into the far future. Instead, it views Revelation as a timeless, cosmic, allegorical depiction of the ongoing spiritual warfare between the kingdom of God and the forces of darkness. So
you think you could mix systems?
I think so.
Because it would be interesting, like taking the symbolic model. This is why I was trying to map this onto the historist model, and I was like, that's not actually right, because the historists believe these things have happened.
Well, yes, because I do believe that a lot of this was fulfilled in the first century,
right? And I think that's why, because it's kind
but
of.
I also believe that it can be fulfilled over and over and over again because that's how prophecy works. Right?
Sure, yeah.
So the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls do not map onto a single historical event like the AD 70 siege or a future peace treaty or the Black Plague or World War II or whatever. Instead, they represent the universal repeating patterns of spiritual truth, how empire always corrupts, how God brings judgment on human pride across every generation, how the saints suffer, and how God will ultimately triumph over structural evil.
You literally just said something about not being both and. Do you think you could be a partial preterist, but also kind of believe in the symbolic model?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so too. Because I think, here's the thing. I think these probably were, I think this is where, you think about, we talked a lot about Revelation not being written to us,
right,
but being written for us. And I think this is where, and again, you have to be careful about not doing narcigesis.
Right.
But I think this is where we can look at the symbolic, prophecy about empire and how it corrupts. Mm-hmm. And you can map things that are happening onto what's happening in our world today.
Yeah, it's the
you have to be careful about that, I think.
You do, because, it fits with the idea we talked about last episode of prophecy has been fulfilled, is being fulfilled, and will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? So just like the prophecy about the virgin conceiving and giving birth to a child was fulfilled shortly after Isaiah, it was also fulfilled in Jesus, and ultimately fulfilled in Jesus. Just like the siege of Jerusalem was fulfilled in 70 AD to map onto Revelation, but it will be ultimately fulfilled when Jesus comes back and establishes the new Jerusalem here on earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's I think and I think we have to be careful because we can get bogged down.
We can.
Into like, what system are you?
And there's so much that we don't know.
There is so much that we don't know.
Right. This is going all the way back to beginning of Theology 101. We were never, if we could understand God, he would not be God.
Yeah.
And so there's just stuff here that we're not going to understand until Jesus is standing in front of us. And then we'll understand, maybe. But.
Yeah. I think one of the things that has been, you've said this quite a few times. Just real quick, we might talk about dispensationalism in one of our future episodes. If you notice, these have been a little bit shorter. We've been intentionally trying to make those a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
So these can be. Eschatology is big. We want to make these a little bit more bite-sized.
So you can, walk around with a good cup of coffee and digest them.
Or kind of walk through them, multiple times if you need to.
Yeah, or if you usually listen to our podcast on 1.5 speed, like I'm prone to do sometimes, you can put it down to 1 speed.
Yeah.
Not 0.5 speed, because then we sound like we've been drinking something other than coffee.
Right. Yes. Okay, so you mentioned, dispensationalists believe in the rapture.
Yes.
Which is, essentially kind of like we get sucked out of the earth.
Yep. And then a whole bunch of bad stuff happens, and then we come back.
And then we come back.
Yeah.
So we've both mentioned how we don't believe that that's a thing.
I don't know if we've explicitly mentioned
I don't know. I guess we've...
Now we have.
Whoops, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
But one of the things we've said, I've told this to people before because, I shock people a lot of time when I'm teaching or doing something and I say, I don't believe in the rapture. And they just kind of look at me like I'm strange.
Yep.
I said, but here's the thing. I could be wrong.
Yep.
And if I am wrong, I'm going to high five you as we're
on the way up.
On the way up.
That's it.
This is not something that we need to, we have to remember when we start to, because I do believe we're going to get into this, into some more of the more controversial things in the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
Remember, this is not something that is to die for.
No.
Or divide for even.
No.
In my thought process, and we just have to remember that when we're talking about when it comes to things in Revelation. Hey, keep it where it needs to be. Is it important? Yes. Don't ignore it, but also remember we don't need to, attack each other over all of this. So with that being said, we have these 4 different interpretive systems: a futurist model, a preterist model. We would say partial preterist. You could hold a partial preterist, still be in orthodox kind of Christianity. The full preterist, we would say, hey, that falls outside of orthodox Christianity.
Because that says that Jesus isn't returning.
Correct. There's the historicist.
Historicist. Oh, now you got me messed up.
I can't
Historicist.
say it. Yeah. Historicist model, which says that the scrolls, the bowls, all that kind of thing have like parts of those have happened with varying different events throughout history.
Right.
And then we've got the idealist symbolic model, which is it can be mapped on taking the chapters 6 through 19, and that can be mapped onto different points in history as well. And we talked about how we could take those. You could be something like a partial preterist, but also think, symbolically, I could see how this could be mapped to different empires.
I guess you can get real deep in the weeds on what you are.
Yes, sure. You could. You 100% could.
Yeah.
Yes, I think. Oh my goodness, yeah. I think I want to end by saying, like, hey, like we said, remember, this is not a to die for, divide for category.
No, you can believe lots of different things about the rapture, about Revelation, about the tribulation, about whatever, and still be in good Christian orthodoxy. And I'm not going to be mad at you no matter what you believe, as long as you're in good Christian orthodoxy.
Yeah, that's right. I think, I I don't know, man. I just feel like this is one of those areas where we can take it way too far.
Yes, we can.
We really can take it way too far. Okay, so those are our 4. Are those all the models?
At least all the big ones.
All the big ones. Yeah. Like we said, I think there's definitely the ability to move into like really niche subsets of each of those models. Those are kind of the big overarching models. All right, where are we headed next?
Next, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you where we're headed next.
Yeah, we got to find our notes.
Yeah, we do. It's okay. I can get them pulled up here at the in the twinkling of an eye.
In the twinkling of an eye.
Sorry. Oh, man. Next episode, we're going to talk about the tragedy of AD 70, and we're going to decipher some things like the horsemen, the beasts, and the Olivet Discourse.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of fun.
Stay tuned. Hold on to your hats. And
then what are we doing in the 4th episode?
In the 4th episode, I'm so glad you asked. Man, you're just keeping me on my toes here.
I am. I'm sorry.
No, we're going to talk about the marriage supper, the new creation, and our shared eternal hope.
Yeah. We'll also, we're not just going to lay out everything and not tell you where we stand.
Right.
Sometimes, I don't know, I get a little frustrated when I'm listening to someone like, not that anyone listening really necessarily respects us or like appreciates us. If you do, thank you. But I when I'm listening to a podcast and they just kind of lay everything out and then they don't tell me where they stand.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I want to know. I want to like,
yeah, for real.
What, okay. It's like, great. You laid this out. Well, which one, it's almost the question of like, which one should I believe?
Yeah.
Now I think part of this podcast is to like help people make.
Yeah. We don't want to just tell you what we believe and say, that's what you should believe.
Right.
We want you to pray and seek the Holy Spirit.
Yes. We want you to think for yourself on these different things too.
100%.
But we also want to offer our opinion. So we will definitely be talking about that more and getting into that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's where we're headed. Again, we're trying to keep these bite-sized for eschatology.
Bite-sized eschatology.
So, for Gospel and Grounds, I'm going to end it first this time. For Gospel and Grounds, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jeremy.
All right. Well, we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Gospel and Grounds podcast. This is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Our theme music was provided by the band Splitwave. And if you'd like to learn more about this podcast and others, you can visit evergreentn.cc. As always, we bless you to grow in the way of Jesus together.